Firstly, the US economy looks for a downturn because the Department for Labour in the US has stated that the predicted figure for new jobs hasn't been met. This is, in my opinion, most likely down to the shift that most companies in the West are doing, where that they want to try and reduce expenditure. And so one easy way of doing that is reducing their labour costs or making sure they rise as little as possible. And so one thing that's also noticeable here in Britain is the fact that pay increases are far lower, or people are on pay freezes effectively, and because the higher rate of inflation here at about 4% or so means that people's pay is going to buy them less than what it may have done a year or so ago. Although this is to be expected, really, the US economy is not in the best state. And however, that said, bonds in the US dollar and pound sterling have been increasing a bit more recently. The rate of interest that UK bonds has been paying has dropped as well. Also the case of where the saline solutions in a hospital in Stockport were contaminated, apparently by Rebecca Layton, who was a former nurse there, and just dropped on account of not having enough evidence, according to the prosecution. But again, that's liable to interpretation. Quite a lot of those things are open-ended, and it depends on the opinion of who's investigating it, really, I suppose. On another point, space junk, which is from old satellites and bits that have been dumped out of the construction of the International Space Station and other things, causing a problem for launching newer satellites because of the fact that they can damage the satellites quite easily, because they're small things with a very high velocity, and when they come into contact with it, because the satellites are very fragile, they will damage quite easily. Likewise, boosters from old rockets and things, when they sent up the satellites, and again, that's not really helped by the fact that China launched a anti-satellite missile, which has now demolished a couple of their old satellites. But again, it may cause issues in the future for newer satellites and existing ones, like again the International Space Station, where debris can damage it. Furthermore, also the Turkey's relations with Israel are not looking so good at the moment, because about a year or so ago, with the flotilla bringing aid to Gaza from Turkey, about 10 or so Turkish civilians were killed in that, and as a result of the UN report siding with Israel rather than Turkey, and because Israel has refused to apologise for its actions, Turkey has relinquished its Israel's ambassador to Turkey. On the same note, Hamas has sided with Turkey, saying that it's a great result for them. Similar things, which again, that would heighten tensions, because Hamas is seen as a terrorist organisation by the Israeli government, and so that's not going to lead to the best of situations. On another note, the riots earlier last month in London and various other major cities here, David Cameron's come out and said they need tough love, which is essentially the same sort of thing he was saying a few years ago with his Hug a Hoodie slogan, which essentially is just trying to bring back together broken lives of some families and things, which other governments seem to have left behind that specific social group, particularly during the 1980s with economic policies then which were designed to stimulate economic growth rather than spread the income across. But then again, Labour have done the same thing, where they have just really gone after big business. The EU has also stepped up sanctions on Syria. Obviously, this is in reaction to killings of innocent protesters by the regime there, because the majority of Syria's oil income comes from EU member states, and so because the EU has quite a distinct view on these things, by comparison to America and other organisations on matters like these, where they're so again that sanction's going to target the Syrian elite quite a lot, because again quite a lot of those sort of countries are very corrupt, and so then that's going to lead to them losing money as a result of not selling oil. And on the same sort of rhetoric, David Cameron's been going on about mission in Libya, has stated again that the US is a staunch ally of the UK and various other things to do with the special relationship. Again, bombing Libyan targets and the ending of Gaddafi's regime, coherent military operations over there and things, just putting pressure on other regimes as well through sanctions and diplomatic tactics. Then looking at Scotland, there's the tram system in Edinburgh, which is, in my opinion, a complete shambles because it's been poorly run like a local project around here, the Cambridge Guided Bus, where millions and millions of pounds more than anticipated has been spent on public transport, and there's lots of different things that are the same as this. The Thameslink project, although this isn't public transport. Wembley, that's another one that's exceeded its budget several times. Scottish Parliament, there's numbers of things that say, and so where before the trams couldn't even run on the track and they required constant maintenance, and they've been building for at least the last several years, and without this funding they won't be able to complete the project because, like quite a lot of other public projects, they're poorly run, and again it's just quite a lot of the time it's just wasting money on bureaucracy. And then lastly, in the news there's caretaker, 62-year-old Highland Terrace in Uffculme, where he's been convicted of 15 rapes, and he may have even raped one girl 400 times, which is very shocking. And it's a shame really that more rape victims don't come forward, because thugs like these should be put in prison, and they're a danger to the community obviously, and it is really quite shocking the treatment that some of these people received from him, but luckily again he's behind bars for at least 12 years, and so again that's the major things that have happened in the news, and my opinions on them.